I'm Austin.
I'm Diana.
And this is the Husband and Knife podcast, where every other week we discuss horror classics, new releases, and pretty much whatever we want.
This week we are going over some lightning round movie recommendations / mini reviews of things we think you should watch this Halloween season. If you're in a little bit of a slump, don't know what to watch, have already seen everything, or just need some recommendations, here's our curated list for you. So I'll start off by prefacing that these are not necessarily our favorites. These are just movies that we liked or, like certain concepts of. And we wanted to share them with you. And I didn't choose any that were necessarily super popular. I don't know if you chose.
Maybe not like super popular, but like kind of popular. Some of them are kind of.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag in here. And I chose from each subgenre of horror just to narrow down my recommendations and my favorites. Otherwise, I'd be all over the place. So I can get started.
Yeah, you can go with your first one first, and then I'll go.
So the first one I chose was a sci-fi horror movie, Annihilation. This came out a couple years ago, and I feel like when it came out, it was a little bit under the radar. At least it wasn't something that I felt like people were talking a lot about. And now I feel like it's sort of becoming a little bit more popular. Sci-fi horror in general is few and far in between. And things are sort of hits or misses because they can really be cheesy, or the special effects cannot always be done super well, or things come out that we've already seen before. And, it's just one of those genres that are... like I said, a hit or a miss. I like this one because it's really, first of all, beautiful to look at, and the world building is one of my favorite things about the movie. Like, if you can immerse me into what a movie looks like, then I'll just enjoy it, no matter the quality of the plot or the characters even. And I mentioned that it's funny because I mentioned that lots of sci-fi horror movies are kind of similar. And this one does have that same start off of you get a group of people and they're sent out to explore whatever mystery phenomenon. And that's what happens in this movie. Natalie Portman and a group of other women scientists, they are sent out to explore this glimmer or shimmer. It's called different things from what it is in the book, so I can't remember. And they're basically supposed to kind of investigate the shimmer as it grows and takes up more parts of the human universe. And when you watch it, it's a beautiful movie to look at. I don't know if you had anything to say about it.
I do know it was beautiful to look at. I don't remember too much from it because we watched it not that long ago, but I just don't kind of remember it.
Yeah, well, some of the memorable parts for me were the scary moments. Do you want to keep these spoiler-free or relatively...
You can just say whatever you... Well, you can, don't say too much.
Okay, yeah, because we're going to scratch the surface with these, and if you are at all interested, I'd recommend you check them out. But the scary, memorable moments in this one for me were obviously the monsters, so there is... I don't want to reveal it. If you don't know about Annihilation, it's kind of... This is the part of the movie. So I'm not going to say anything, but there's a big monster in it that is definitely shocking and really creepy. It's very creepy. And this also has some elements of a new trend in horror that I just learned about, which is fungal horror or mushroom horror. And it's basically this concept of mushrooms and being parasites and taking over certain things, and it's basically supposed to symbolize nature versus man, and obviously nature is winning over man. So another example I can think of, because in this movie, I don't know if you remember the group, they walk into a room and it's this skeleton of a dude, and he's basically rotten and grown into the wall behind him. And another example I could think of is The Last of Us. They're literally mushroom zombies.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that was a trend, but it's definitely fun to think about.
It's a pretty fun guy to think about.
Yeah. And I also just really like the soundtrack of this movie. And funnily enough, I heard the main theme of this movie on a TikTok the other day, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" But it's one of those you'll hear it you'll recognize it when you hear it, and it will probably stick with you for a long time. At least I liked it enough for it to stick with me. Do you want to give your quick opinion?
Yeah, I thought it was a good movie. I don't, like I said, I don't actually remember too much about Annihilation, but I do remember liking it. I liked the world that they went into. I thought that was probably the best part of the movie.
Yeah, because it's like, the idea is that the glimmer or the shimmer, like, takes the natural world. So, like, I think it was in a forest, and it basically, like, what's the word for it? It, like, amplifies everything and, like, changes nature. So, like, you'll see deer who have, like, glow-in-the-dark eyes, and, like, their antlers are, like, growing flowers or whatever. So it's really cool. It's a cool nature movie, too, and I don't know how much of it is biologically accurate, but I'm sure it would be interesting for a biological person or a biologist to look at and be like,
I mean, I remember not thinking it was like implausible. Is that a word even?
Yeah, that's
implausible is a word.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I remember I remember the science being like, I mean, obviously I'm not a scientist, but I mean, it made sense. It's not, you're not like, well, how does that happen?
Yeah,
like,
it's not one of those alien movies that you're like, okay,
yeah. So
this is out of the blue. It's plausible.
Yeah.
Great. So that's me on Annihilation. What's your movie?
So I also do a sci-fi one. It's my favorite one, The Thing. Yeah, it's my favorite horror movie.
Not super popular.
Well, I really like that movie, so I chose it anyway. It's basically Among Us in Antarctica.
It is.
So I mean, there's like a thing which they don't know at first, and so it's like taking over the people, and everyone is kind of suspicious of each other. So there is like the scary action moments, but then there's also a lot of moments of like people just like they
talking and deliberating,
and they don't know what to do, and so I mean that's pretty scary. It's like they don't know what's happening, they don't know who to trust because of the thing, and really my favorite part though is the special effects of it, just because I like what's the word? Practical. I like practical effects just because they look more believable, and I just think it's cooler to be like, how did you do that? And there's just a lot of things in this movie where it's like, first of all, you can think it in your head, but like, I don't know how you can think, okay, this is how to do it. And then like actually make it happen. So really that's the fun part of watching it for me, is just seeing everything that happens. And I mean, it's really a simple story.
It's so simple, but it's done so well because of the character.
Yeah, there's every character, they're not like really that tropey, the characters.
No.
You can tell, like some of them they are, like there's the leader, there's the hothead.
Who's the hothead? Charles? Niles?
Child. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them get pissed off the whole time.
Yeah,
but obviously you get pissed off if you
there's the cook,
in this situation.
the silly chef man.
Yeah, there's like, so like they all have like characters that you're like, okay, they don't have to go deep into the character to like be like, that's this guy. But it's, yeah, I really like the story's so simple, and
we should preface this by saying it's not the 2011 thing.
Yeah,
it is the
old one.
Thing.
I did like the prequel. Like, I like that they made it, because lots of horror movies.
Pre-sequel.
Well, lots of horror movies they remake and they suck because they're remakes and they just suck compared to the original. But I like that they made a prequel instead.
Yeah, the prequel it explained a lot of stuff. It just gave it a little bit more like background and context.
Yeah, and because like the way it starts, there's like a whole, like the prequel, it's a whole movie, And so the actual one takes place after that whole movie.
Yeah, obviously.
So like, well, yeah. So like,
I know what you mean.
So like, there's like a whole bunch of stuff you don't know what happened at the start of the movie, before the thing happened, but
that
like
lead up to it.
But you can be like, okay, you can grasp basically what happened. But yeah, it's like it's a sci-fi movie with an alien. I mean, they also the beginning of the movie with they show the spaceship like crashing, so like that there's an alien.
The original thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I never caught that.
In like before the title card at the beginning.
Oh, it's like a spaceship.
That cheesy looking spaceship thing.
I guess I never noticed that. I gotta rewatch it.
Yeah. It's like it's like a saucer, cheesy little spaceship.
But it's not. It's cool because it's not like the green Martian alien type thing.
No.
It's like a.
Well, like.
We don't know what the thing looks like.
Like the thing.
It's just cells.
You don't like. You kind of see it. Like there's like little bits of like because when it's like doing its thing, you can like kind of see like.
You gotta get a little specific.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, no, I don't want it to be too specific. When it's doing its thing, you can kind of tell like what it kind of like what it might. But
tentacle.
Like, yeah, but you don't see.
It's not like
There's not an alien that like there's not like a moving alien.
Yeah, because it's always morphing with things that it's assimilating with.
Yeah, so
which makes it really interesting. If you've never seen the thing, get on it.
Yeah, it's really good. It's my favorite, so I would watch it.
Awesome. So my next recommendation also has 2 movies, so I'll recommend these side by side. I'll do Happy Death Day 1 and 2. So this is a horror comedy that came out a couple years ago, and I remember first watching it and being like, okay, this is like. I didn't really like Tree. Tree is the main character. Like, I remember, like, not liking her at all. But then I realized that's the point.
She's the exact kind of girl
she's like a sorority
we don't like.
girl.
She's in a sorority, a college student.
She's mean to her friends.
Like, so
she sleeps with a teacher. Like, she's all these, like, not bad, but just, like, not
things that we don't like.
Very great qualities in a person.
A person we wouldn't really
or anyone really. I mean, who likes a really mean girl? Like, no one does.
Yeah.
But then we realized that's kind of the point.
That's the point. She's supposed to not be likable at the beginning.
And so Happy Death Day is a movie where the main character Tree, she something happens on her birthday. She gets killed, and she kind of lives through a Groundhog Day situation where she gets killed every day and wakes up every day. Like she relives the same day over and over again. And so you basically spend the whole movie trying to figure out who's the killer, and she's trying to figure out how she can stop it. And the second movie is kind of a continuation of that. And you'd think, okay, are they going to make her like die and relive again?
And the answer is yes.
And the answer is yes, but differently. It's so enjoyable.
It's a different. There's a different thing she's trying to figure out.
There's a different mystery, and they're fun to watch. Like, if you're going into it expecting, it's technically a slasher, but if you're going into it expecting like so many people to die and for it to be even a bloody gore fest, it's not.
Really, only one person.
The kills are cool though.
Well, I mean, for most of the movie, basically only one person dies.
Yeah.
It's just the same person over and over.
Yeah, but the director, I think he had a lot of fun. I think his name is Christopher Landon. I could be wrong. He made Freaky, but I think he had a lot of fun. Figuring out like how to kill Tree. I think that was one of the best things about the movie is like she runs into a wood chipper.
The second one much more. There's like it's kind of like,
yeah. There's much more creativity in the second kills just because you kind of know what you're going into.
Yeah,
so.
The first one, if it was too wonky, it's like okay, this is whatever. But the second one, like what's the first one. You know what the first one was, so this one you can.
And like we said, like Tree, the main character, she actually goes through a really nice character arc in both movies, and you don't really get that a lot with main character girls. Like there's not really too much dimension to them because they
main characters
just die.
In horror anyway.
Yeah, but in this one you kind of really feel for Tree, and you root for her and her love interest to make it through. And I would say it's genuinely funny. I think it's really funny, and it's full of heart. And if you are kind of dipping your toes into horror, you don't really know what to watch, you don't want to watch something too scary, but you still want to have a creepy moment or two, because there are some creepy moments in the beginning of the first movie.
The beginning of the first one is like typical. It seems like a typical slasher with what's happening.
Yeah, so if you are a beginner in horror movies and want to just try something out that's not necessarily too scary, make you lose sleep or anything, I would recommend Happy Death Day 1 and 2. So that's me.
Well, I'm going to go with another horror comedy as well.
Can you stop? We did not look at each other's lists.
But like this just so happens that I have no order that I'm going to say.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going off it because one that really just made it was more funny than anything. Studio 666.
Oh my god, I was gonna recommend that.
It's a Foo Fighters horror movie. Which when Diana told me that there's a Foo Fighters horror, but did I tell you who?
I think I told you.
Yeah. So I was like, what? And so it is
L sharp.
a horror movie starring
flat, like an
the
octave
Foo
up.
Fighters.
Yeah, they're not playing characters.
not an
They're
E.
themselves.
They're themselves.
I mean, I guess for this one, they're kind of like character versions.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's not like the actual personalities because I mean the movie.
That'd be weird.
Yeah,
You guys could just, like,
because
open
they
up
have
your
to. They're
hearts
just
and
like being
minds,
funny and like
maybe you'd be able to hear it.
it's so weird that like the concept of a Foo Fighters horror movie, like the actual movie itself, is not that weird. It's funny, but like the fact that they just decided let's
It was
make a
definitely
horror
like,
movie.
yeah, let's do it. We have nothing to do.
And like you can tell that they just had so much fun doing
It
it
was a lot of
because it was so much silly stuff going on. I don't even remember too much of everything that went on. I just remember really thinking it was just silly and funny.
Yeah.
And like the deaths.
The kills were cool. Like, I remember Taylor Hawkins.
Yeah, the guy who's actually the
R.I.P.
drummer who died.
R.I.P. He gets this really cool kill where he gets spoiler. He gets like a symbol thrown at
Through his
him, and
neck.
it's like slices him in half. It's really cool.
Yeah, but like I mean, there's lots of really cheesy effects, but I mean, you're also watching a horror movie made by the Foo Fighters,
like
so
you,
I mean,
you kind of know what you're getting into too, because the basic premise of the story is that the Foo Fighters side. I believe. Oh my God, what's his name? What is the lead singer's
Dave
name?
Grohl.
Dave
Like,
Grohl finds like some weird record because they're in a slump,
yeah, they need to write another album.
but they can't think of it.
So like they find like this house. They're like looking for a place to record, and there's this house, and he really likes like the sound, like the way the sounds are in the house. But
That's
really,
because
it's possessed.
haunted.
It's haunted, and like he gets possessed,
yeah.
and so
It's ridiculous.
and the end, like as it go, like it's like a little ridiculous as it goes on, but then the end is just like just really ridiculous.
Yeah, you're already in it and you can't get out.
Yeah, so because like we saw it in theaters because we went to see it like we were like we need to see a movie, and then Diana saw that. And
It was
I
an
like,
hour and 46 minutes, but it felt like it should have been shorter. But again, like we were saying earlier, it's like a movie that it seems like they were just kind of doing it as friends, and they didn't want to take themselves seriously, and I can respect that.
Yeah, I just know they wanted to make a movie together, so they made like a horror movie, and they just had fun, made a silly horror movie, and
The kills are cool.
yeah, and I would just watch it. There's nothing scary about it at all. I mean, the end you could get scared.
You could get scared by parts of it.
Yeah, but like you probably won't.
If you like rock music and horror and like devil.
Oh yeah, because they're writing like a song, and like
It's like a 10-minute
the demon possession. I don't remember what it is. Like they needs the song to like be long and like do this certain stuff. It's like over 30 minutes, like the song.
Yeah, and it's funny because like Dave Grohl is like kind of being a diva about it, and the rest of the band members are like, ugh.
Well, and that's what makes it really funny is like the whole movie he's like this asshole.
But
and
I
like
hope he's not.
no, he's known as the nicest man in rock and roll.
Oh, really?
That's like his thing. It's like he's really nice.
What key is this in?
L sharp.
You found a new musical note?
Hell, motherfucking yes, I did. Came to me last night. Just dropped in my head like boom. You're welcome, music.
So the L sharp, that's just basically an E flat, like an octave up.
It's not an E, it's an L. If you guys could just like open up your hearts and minds, maybe you'd be able to hear it.
So that's what makes it. He's just like kind of a dick the whole time.
It's funny.
And
I almost recommended that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just really funny, silly horror movie. It's like literally, it's like a bunch of friends who are like, yo, let's make a bunch of friends who had a lot
Who
of
are rich.
who are rich and have connections. We're like, yo, let's make a stupid movie.
Yeah, because what's his face, isn't it? The record producer? What's his name?
I don't-
He's the one who looks like John Goodman, but isn't.
He's
a
the-
daddy daycare.
He's the dad in the Goldbergs that got fired and kicked off the show because he was like harassing people
Oof.
on set.
Okay, never mind. I don't like him.
But like every character he plays like yells and is just like an ass. And
Yeah.
I guess he's just being himself.
Now we know.
But he's the record producer in it. So it's really funny.
Great. So a movie that I will recommend, this one is on the scarier side. If you like supernatural, like paranormal movies, this one is it. Though it's also international, so it's in a couple of categories. It's Terrified. And this is on Shudder, I believe. And it is basically this Argentine horror movie where you kind of follow this small neighborhood and the hauntings. I can't remember if they're all connected in some way, but one house is getting haunted and so is the next door and the next door. And you're following this this pair of like detective paranormal investigator sort of as they investigate like each haunting and happening. And so it's a little bit of an anthology, but not, because the stories are interwoven really seamlessly. And this one, I swear to God, I was just horrified. I was horrified. There's lots of terrifying imagery in this. So this one is the only one I think I would trigger warning for like disturbing things, because there's depictions of like dead children and just haunting stuff, but it's never anything exploitative. So if you're worried that like, oh, they're just exploiting scary things to be scary, it's not like that at all. It's more so about our relationship with a relationship between like the mortal world, the one that, you know, we're living and breathing in, and the kind of ghost world, and what happens when life passes through to the other world and things like that. It's your, I would say it's your run of the mill haunting and possession story, but it's just crafted so well and it feels fresh.
Yeah, it wasn't lots of like haunting possession movies. Like it's like there's a possession in a house, the family gets haunted and tormented, but this one was like, it didn't feel generic.
Yeah, because each story, like each haunting was unique is the word I would want to say. It's unique, and it kind of delves into more of the person, instead of like the demon character just kind of, you know, haunting you because you're a random person. These ones feel a lot more personal, like a look into like what really scares each person and what each person's deepest fear is. Like one of the characters is afraid of the dark, I think. And so there's this, I don't want to say it, but and so there's a lot of play with that. And then I think there's one about like a child and a parent. So they're all just personal stories that, you know, are haunting. And I will say there are some legitimate scares. There's some like really legitimate creepy moments and imagery, but there's also a fair share of jump scares as well. And I think that they're balanced pretty decently, that you can enjoy the whole movie without like it just being a jump scare fest, which is what a lot of possession horror movies are these days. And yeah, I just remember really liking the atmosphere, but I was quite disappointed at the end. So just keep that in mind. Like if you want all the answers, if you want all the questions that in your head answered, you're not going to get that. But I liked it. I really liked it.
Yeah, I don't remember too much about that movie, but I remember being really, because those movies sometimes kind of scare me.
Yeah.
I don't really like to watch, because I remember I used to really like to watch like the
Conjuring.
Yeah, like the scary in the house movies. But now those aren't the ones that I watch so much. But I remember I liked watching them a lot just because they were legitimately scary, and when I watched a movie I wanted to be scared. So yeah, that one lives up to its name of Terrified.
Now you're like, oh, I want to watch a movie because the special effects are cool.
Well, I like to watch ones that aren't so scary now.
Yeah, when people want to watch horror movies, they just want to be scared, and they don't care too much about what the movie is about. So I feel like the more you become a horror fan, the less you're interested in being scared, which is ironic.
Well, my next movie, it's not super scary. I wouldn't say it's not super scary because it has scary parts, but it was Behind the Mask.
Oh, Leslie Vernon.
The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
I like that
I really
movie.
liked that movie, and mostly because we both went to a journalism school. And the movie, it's a parody of slasher movies, but it's also scary.
It's a documentary.
Yeah, it's a documentary.
Mockumentary.
It's a mockumentary. This girl, I think she's still a student.
A grad. I
Yeah,
think.
she's like a grad student, and she's doing a project where she's like filming like behind the scenes of this, basically like an 80s slasher character guy. He's like a serial killer, but he's like your typical slasher character. He's got a mask. He's got like, what's his weapon? Does he have a machete in this? I don't remember his weapon.
I don't remember.
I don't, because I remember like he specific. There's a specific part, like there's an interview where he's like talking about his weapon. He like picked it to. Is it something to be different? I don't remember. But she asks him like questions like, why are you doing this? Why like. So it's like seeing like the behind the scenes of what would Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, what would they be doing? Because you're not really following the slasher like during these movies. You're following all the characters, but this time you're seeing like there's one part like he's in the library, and he's like stalking the girl. You see like he's like building up. He's like building up the suspense.
Oh yeah.
To like scare them, and then it culminates in like how a slasher movie always ends, with the slasher going, and because there's a group of teenagers he's scaring, like he talks about how he picks these people and whatever.
It's
a sickle, yeah. So he like picked like a cool sickle, and like that it culminates in him chasing this group of people, starting to kill them off, and obviously I really like I think the ending's really funny with like the final girl. I don't want to say exactly what happens. But I really like that it's like a mockumentary of just slasher movies. And those are my favorites.
Yeah, and who would even be like this journalist character? She's so funny because who would want to document like a serial killer? But she probably thinks she is like being like, revolutionary.
Well, like it's kind of a joke. So like you're not supposed to believe like she.
Yeah, I don't think she believes him.
Well, you wouldn't. No, she believes him.
Oh, she does.
I think so.
I don't remember.
But like you're not supposed to believe that this is an actual project, because obviously no one's gonna like interview a serial killer on their process while they go kill people. But like that's what makes it funny, because I just like slasher movies a lot, and just to see just a silly. It's still scary though. Like
it does have some scary moments.
Like the ending scenes, like it's like an actual slasher movie.
Yeah, and the character himself, Leslie Vernon, though he does not sound intimidating, he looks scary.
Well, yeah, but like he's
like a farmer boy.
Yeah, like he picks his outfit like specifically to be scary. Like if you watch like a documentary of like the making of like a movie or something, like, but there used to be things on TV a long time ago where like there'd be like documentaries that go behind the scenes and stuff, and that's basically what it is. Just
and
but it's the movie.
I think I remember, if I could remember correctly, I think there was a part where he was like practicing the slow walk chase thing.
He's like practicing like what he has to do, and like the place where he does like his the final battle, like he like sets up certain things in the place to like. He's like, I need this to happen to make like, because he's saying like this what happens.
Yeah.
It's like all the cliches, but like saying that they're planned out.
Yeah, and it's explained, because I mean, when you watch a horror movie, when you watch a slasher, you're like, okay, how did he get there, or how did Michael Myers suddenly appear out of nowhere?
And this movie answers those questions.
And this movie answers those questions and makes him a lot less intimidating.
But he's still pretty scary.
But he's still pretty scary. Yeah. All right, I will go into my fourth movie, which is a supernatural / vampire movie. It's From Dusk Till Dawn. This one is like an action horror. Like I watched it when I was younger, and I don't remember necessarily being scared by it. I just remember thinking it was pretty cool. Sometimes my favorite movies are movies that feel like a video game, just because I grew up liking video games.
And this movie's a video game.
And this movie feels a lot like it. But before I get into that, I'm going to talk a little bit about it. It's kind of done in two parts, where the first half it's a Tarantino movie. I think like half Tarantino and half Robert Rodriguez, who did like Spy Kids. So the first half is probably Quentin Tarantino's half, because it's like noir
It's definitely his
crime
half.
horror noir crime. Like you meet two brothers, the Gecko brothers, who are out on the run, and then they find this family in an RV, and they basically take them hostage to help bring the Gecko brothers to Mexico, where they can finish a deal or whatever. So the first half is that, and the second half you spend in this like stripper bar club in Mexico. So spoiler, they got to Mexico. And it turns out
We got a bunch of fucking vampires out there trying to get in here and suck our fucking blood. And that's it, plain and simple. And I don't want to hear anything about I don't believe in vampires. Because I don't fucking believe in vampires. But I believe in my own two eyes, and what I saw is fucking vampires.
see, I don't know how much they marketed the fact that it's a vampire movie in the 90s, because for me it was a big reveal. I mean, back then you didn't have YouTube, so you couldn't exactly watch trailers of movies. So when I found this movie, I found it on like the movie channels, and I was just like, okay, I'll click. And so I remember being like shocked when the people in this club ended up being vampires. So it's part action, part horror, because the second half is them killing vampires. And I remember really liking the practical effects of this one. I believe each vampire face is done practically, and it's just also a cool world that you go into, because it's like, I feel like Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, they were ahead of the game when they started thinking that the South and the Southwest were a great setting for basically every movie. Like
There's so many movies.
More and more movies and
doing
TV
that.
shows now are doing that, like Breaking Bad and
That's like a really popular
Yeah.
place to film TV
Yeah.
shows and movies now.
But you're taken to that place back in the 90s, so it feels like hot and it feels like deserty, like legitimately, because it's a fresh concept for a setting, and it just feels gross and like dusty and everything. So I really liked that part of it, and I also really liked the characters in this. Like I said, I like movies that are like video games, and in video games you have characters. So this one has a cool set of characters where you kind of have like obviously you have the Gecko brothers, then you have like the kind of preacher's daughter girl, then you have like the preacher who's supposed to like be the healer character or whatever. You have the bad guy, not the bad guys, but you have like the badass guys who are the strong ones and everything. So it's not difficult to find a character that you really like in this one. And I would just say this one is a movie that I can watch all the time, even though it's been a long time since I've watched it.
Well, that's because we watched it together once, and you
didn't like it.
Well, you didn't tell me what kind of movie it was. So like, I was really invested in the first half. I liked the crime part. And then when it got to the vampire half, I was like...
disappointed.
I was disappointed because I was like, this is not what I'm in the mood for. I don't really like vampire stuff.
Me neither, but this is different.
Yeah, so like at the moment, like, I was just like, nah. And like, it kind of like, for me at that moment, I was like, I was so invested in this first half.
Yeah.
That I liked, and I liked what was going on, so... But we need to rewatch it because now I know what I'm getting into with it, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's such a fun, it's a fun movie, and you find yourself kind of rooting for some of the characters towards the end. And yeah, it's a movie that I can rewatch anytime. There's just some cool shots in it that are stuck in my brain forever. And also Salma Hayek is in it. She's hot.
She's a
hot fire vampire lady. So.
Yeah.
If you're into that.
Well, in a movie that you really don't root for any characters, a movie I really like is I like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Oh my God, why?
I
hated that movie.
Oh, yeah. I love 80s movies where people just kill people, and
They're gonna say Maniac.
see, I didn't like that one as much, but they're
similar.
They're similar in a way, but like I really just like movies where like people just kill people, and this is
Red
one of
flag.
and this is a movie where like Henry, he's loosely based on an actual serial killer, but like he just like kills people, but the movie doesn't really focus so much on him killing people. He's a killer because they talk about how he killed his mom and he went to jail for it. But so he's like living with this other guy, and that guy's sister comes to live with them. And she's obviously asking questions, and he like openly talks to this girl and this guy about how it's his prison friend. It's his prison friend, so that's why he's okay with it. But his sister, like, he's like, I killed my mom, and like he explained like he did it because she like abused him and things. So you're like, okay, you're like, okay,
Red flag.
his mom was like hurting him. He was young. He wasn't very old. Was he like was he like 12 or something when he killed?
I don't remember very much.
Yeah, he was like younger when he killed his mom. So like, you're like, okay, his mom's
something's
abusing.
very, very wrong with him.
Yeah, you're like, he's clearly like, he's got mental problems in his head. And well, I guess I shouldn't say you never root for him, because he weirdly has some redeeming qualities.
I can't say anything.
Like, he's like a killer. Like, he kills people for no reason. But like, also like, I don't want to say like the part, like the guy he lives with like does something to his sister, and like,
whose sister?
Because he's living with the guy he lives with. I think his name's Otis. Like, his sister.
Damn Otis's.
Yeah. So he like, and like he gets Otis to like he gets Otis to be like a killer like him. But like his
it's kind of cool sometimes.
But
it's like a buddy cop movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're like it's like a romantic horror movie.
Romantic comedy.
But like the guy does something to his sister, and like you can see Henry's got a line. Henry's got like
a line. Yeah.
Henry's like, we don't do that.
He's like Frank Castling.
He's like, we don't do that. And so you're like, okay, he's not all that bad, but like. And like, there's like a part, and then there's also parts where like him and Otis are like he's like showing Otis how to like be a serial killer.
Again,
it's not funny. It's not. It's like it's not like a funny movie.
Yeah, it's not like Leslie Vernon where it's like, oh, it's interesting. This is like kind of gross.
The way I'm saying it, like, oh, he's like, this is how you be a serial killer. It's not like a how to, like, this is how to be a serial killer. But like, he's kind of fucked up, but like. And then there's moments where you're like, okay, but then he's really just not a good person.
Yeah.
But I like movies where like...
There's no redeeming qualities. Yeah, because there doesn't need to be.
And his redeeming qualities, you can say he has a redeeming quality. I mean, anyone who's against like sexual assault's not like, they're not 100% bad, but he's like 99% bad.
Yeah, he is just about there.
Yeah, so and he's so scary looking because it's Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker scares me.
He's so like.
I think of him as Merle, and I hate Merle.
Well, yeah, like, but like this is like a different
from The Walking Dead.
Yeah, this is a different kind of scary. That's like a mean, racist, crazy
white dude guy.
Like white dude, like oh my god, he's like gonna kill somebody just because he's like. But this is like
he's unhinged.
This is like he stares at you. You're like, oh, maybe I'm not going to this gas station. He's that kind of scary. Yeah. And I really I like when people die in movies.
I remember the only reason I didn't like it was because it made me feel gross at the end.
It was a gross movie.
So it is effective in like feeling bleak towards the end. Like there's no fun in this.
No, the ending is very bleak.
Yeah.
But like
however you interpreted it.
But like, it's pretty obvious what happened. It's the ending. It's like it's obvious. Like they don't tell you what happened, but like, it's obvious what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you feel it's not a. There's no like happy ending in this movie. There's really no happy moments in this movie. It's pretty.
Except for maybe Otis and Henry chilling out and killing people.
Yeah, like, because they like film it and stuff.
Yeah, they do. They do film it. They have like a camera.
Yeah, so like...
Didn't they try to sell it and then like they ended up killing that guy they sold it to?
I don't remember that. I don't remember exactly all of it, but like... like, it's so weird because it's like, dude, this movie's fucked up. But also, like...
You like it.
Bro, like, I like bro stuff, like...
Yeah.
I like bro stuff. So like, if you look past the sadistic murdering, bro movie.
Right.
Until, but But then, like, he draws the line with his bro. Like, okay,
This
bro.
is like your James Franco, Seth Rogen comedy.
Except it's a gross serial killer movie. But yeah, I just think it's fun in a not so fun way.
Yeah, great. Well, my last recommendation is a new release. So I had a hard time picking one because I was like, don't want to go over something that we've already gone over in the podcast.
Yeah, we've gone over a lot of the new releases.
And also, we haven't seen lots of new horror movies. We're bad because, just, ugh. Not a lot of good stuff has come out. Like X, we could have talked about X, but I didn't really like X to recommend it. But so I chose Last Night in Soho, and this came out in 2021.
Did it come out that long ago?
Yes, it did.
I thought that was
year.
February or something.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'll look
the
it up
release date on IMDb says 2021. But anyway, you follow Thomasin McKenzie. She plays this.
Oh, that was a year ago, like this week.
Okay, yeah. So you follow this little fashion student, and it's set in London, and it's directed by Edgar Wright. So if that entices you at all in any way, please watch it. I think he did. He's done Baby Driver, and he did Shaun of the Dead. So if his style at all intrigues you, you should watch this movie because it's apparent. But also, he kind of... When he did Shaun of the Dead, I didn't really think it was that scary. Like, it had that, like, British charm to it, you know? That's my horrible British accent. You can tell it's an Edgar Wright movie just because everyone's British and it's set in London. But, it's, he has a style. And then this one, he uses that style, but he makes it it's more polished. Like, things aren't, sorry, there's,
Sirens.
It's not even like Baby Driver where it's smart and quick and, and clever.
It's slow.
This one is more slow and mystery. It's like a murder mystery.
Yeah, you don't really know.
Yeah.
You don't know what's happening for a while.
You don't. And so you're kind of following, and it's kind of got like supernatural, paranormal elements to it too, but not completely. And so you follow this fashion student, and she starts having these dreams because of the place that she moves into. As a student, she starts having these dreams about someone who lived in the apartment and starts kind of living her life and becoming obsessed with her because she's her new fashion muse or whatever, until she finds out that something very tragic happened to this woman, and now she's in the middle of it because she like astral projects into these dreams. But I really like this one because it's like it's also kind of a time, like a period drama horror, and we don't really get a lot of movies that are set, like horror movies that are set way back in time.
Well, this one's it's not like set way back in time, like
it's set in like 60s.
Yeah, so it's not like 1600s, like way back in time.
No,
it's just like set. It's set a little bit back in time.
Yeah, a little bit back in time when fashion was like the big thing, and the show business was becoming a bigger thing than it is, than it had been, I should say. So there is great costuming in this. Everyone is dressed immaculately and looks immaculate because it's a fashion school. But it's also Anya Taylor-Joy and Matt Smith, who is the Doctor.
The Doctor.
Doctor Who. So if you want to see him in this movie, be a not nice guy, you can watch this movie. I also, like I said, it's a drama murder mystery, and I don't really like drama movies. I'm only in the mood for when I'm sick. It's really off. It's really strange, but horror and drama you don't think they mesh well together, and sometimes they don't because the drama weighs movies down. But for this one, if you're going into this one thinking it's going to be a snooze fest, it's not. I'm saying that there's depth to the story that tugs a little bit at your heartstrings, like you empathize with the two main women in this movie because of what's happening to them. And there's just, it deals with realistic issues, which I appreciate. It didn't have to be so deep, but Edgar Wright made it deep. There are gender concepts in it that I really enjoyed, and they weren't forced at all, but you can really see like the difference between men versus women in this, and specifically in like a subtext of like show business and what it takes to get famous, especially back in the 60s when we didn't have things like the Me Too movement or like women's rights in general. So if you're interested in a horror movie that is stylish and deals with some of those deeper issues, and it's not necessarily like kill heavy, but it does have some scary moments. And I didn't find myself disturbed really by like I nothing was like horrifying and stuck with me. Like I wasn't worried that Matt Smith was gonna get me in the middle of the night. So, but it does deal with more like realistic horror of like I believe sexual assault and just murder and all of that. So, if you're interested, I would say you can watch Happy Death Day 1 and 2, and then Last Night in Soho if you want to bump it up a little bit, and if you do still value like the artistic, if you value a plot in horror, you can watch this one. That is my last recommendation.
And if you don't so much value plot and you just like murder like I do, I really liked Pieces.
You didn't like that at the end. At the end, you were like, "What the heck was that?"
But,
that's it.
But like, I liked, but then I like thought about it, and I really do like it.
Really?
Yes.
I'm surprised.
Well,
Your list is surprised me.
Well, because it starts off with this little boy.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and like he's not little. Well, he's not that little.
He's like 12-ish.
He's like a kid.
11, 10, 11.
Yeah, something like that. And he's like doing a puzzle of like a naked lady.
Yes.
And
this is an 80s movie.
Yeah. So, and then his mom walks in and like gets pissed at him and like starts yelling at him.
All the king's men couldn't put the pieces together.
Where did this filth come from? Answer me! Answer me! What I have to put up with? You dirty-minded little brat, playing with filth like this, just like your father.
And so he grabs an axe and then he murders her and cuts her into pieces.
Into pieces. Title card.
And then, like, the police come in. They're like, what the heck happened? He's like, oh, someone killed my mom.
And then he got away with it,
He gets away with
too.
it because, I mean, it's a 10-year-old. Do you think a 10-year-old's going to do this to a mom? Like,
Yeah.
you got to believe him. And he, like, uses her body parts as, like, a puzzle as well or something. And then flash forward a while. He, like... I don't know how it's probably a while that they flash forward.
It's probably been like 20 years or so.
And so
10 or 20 years maybe.
and it's on there's a college campus, so I mean it's like an 80s movie. A bunch of girls are going to die.
Sorry, women. I'm over here talking about women's rights.
I'm like women's
Not
body parts
women's
die.
left.
What's what left of women?
Oh my god.
And so like this girl is killed on campus, and obviously
Chopped up with a chainsaw.
chopped up with a chainsaw. I think she's decapitated or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, everyone who dies in this movie is like cut into pieces. That's the name of the movie, Pieces. And so the movie is about like these cops that are trying to solve this crime because
It's a whodunit.
yeah, it's on a college campus, and like they like the whatever he's like a dean or a president or something like doesn't want the reputation of the school to be harmed by like a murder, like at this point just one murder. But then they start to pile up, and then they start to get antsy about it, and they like have this like decoy girl.
Yeah, there's a decoy girl, and then there's a decoy. There's a red herring in this one where you think it's someone. You think the killer is someone that they're pointing to, that everyone is suspecting.
Yeah.
But it's,
Yeah, so like it's kind of like a mystery. I mean,
it is a mystery.
it's kind of a mystery because you don't really know.
Yes.
I mean, you know who's doing it because obviously at the beginning they show this boy doing it.
But
so-
you don't know who he ended up becoming.
Yeah, because it's so far in the
You know,
future,
yeah.
and so like it's just, I really just like 80s horror movies just with slashers. I guess like a lot of my movies were slashers.
We're slashes, yeah. This one, I found out about this movie because another horror YouTuber that I like, Horrible Reviews, he loves this movie. And so we'll have to watch what he says about it. But the reason I wanted to watch it was because he loved it. And so I'm glad that you loved it. There was a part in it that I really enjoyed, which is when... So there's the detective, like... How did the tennis player become the detective?
She...
A sentence,
Oh, God, I don't remember.
Yeah, but so there's a tennis...
She's like a famous lady.
Yeah, there's a famous tennis player who somehow gets roped into working on this case.
I totally forgot, like, why they pick... I think she plays at the school.
I guess she does.
She's a tennis player at... That's what she's a tennis player at the school.
Oh.
But I don't remember, like, why... They, like, pick her to, like, be a... It's a really... The movie has, like, really, like... It's an 80s horror movie, so it's got, like, it's weird, like, cheesy, like... kind of dumb stuff.
Yeah, and the whole time you're like wondering if it was spoken in another language at first, and then they dubbed over it because it's so. Like I remember being like, "What the am I watching?" Like the words don't line up to the to the mouths.
So like it's like cheesy, but like it's the kind of movie I like. That's kind of like right now. Those are the kind of horror movies I like to watch.
Yeah. So
that's why I said this one, just because.
Yeah, there's a really fun tennis match in it that if you play tennis at all, you'll get a kick out of.
Yeah.
Because it's like
they're like standing in the middle of the court hitting the ball.
Yeah. And
it's so bad.
Yeah.
Like the movie has like a lot of like. It's not a high quality movie.
No, it's not. It feels like guerrilla filmmaking.
It's like a low.
It's
a low budget, like trying to like get some money off capitalize off of like Halloween and Friday the 13th. It's like that kind of movie.
But it still is its own character.
It's like
it's so unique because like you got this character, like he's building like. So each person that he kills, he's taking body parts of, and you know where that leads. It's so cool. The ending, I think, is my favorite part of the movie.
Oh yeah, when he's like,
yeah, and then
the
ending part, you're just like, what?
Yeah,
what happened?
So it's a little ridiculous,
but I liked it. I don't know if I would watch it again, but it's worth a watch for sure.
It's the kind of horror movies I like to watch. I don't like really serious horror movies as much. You kind of like more like serious.
Well, I like movies that say something. I also like movies that just do whatever.
Yeah, it
just depends on my mood.
Yeah, I like movies that I don't have to like pay too much attention to. Like, I mean, The Thing is though my favorite is one you really.
I was gonna say that's the one that you have to think the most about.
You have to think a lot and pay attention a lot in that movie to know
who's the imposter,
to like follow what's going on. But like, if I'm just gonna watch something, it's gonna be something stupid.
Yeah. Do you have any honorable mentions? Ones that didn't make it to the list?
You know, it really took me a bit to think of my fifth one. Pieces was after a bit of thinking. Because, like, I wanted to think of, like, another 80s movie. Because there was some I watched just a couple weeks ago when I was on my work trip.
Oh.
And I was like, I almost wanted to recommend The Burning, which isn't good, but it just has Jason Alexander. He's a George Costanza in Seinfeld. And it's like... I almost recommended it just because it's so hilarious to like have George Costanza in a horror movie, but the movie sucks, so I didn't.
That's funny.
It was like the first thing that came to my mind because I just think about it. I just been thinking about it just randomly, like George Costanza. It was like it was before Seinfeld. It was like 10 years before Seinfeld, but like he talks. And just the same, it just was so funny. It comes into my mind randomly. I'm like that George Costanza horror movie.
Yeah, I in the same realm of like 80s horror movies where there's a twist at the end. I almost wrote down Phenomena because that was like what the f am I watching? But I also enjoyed the ride the whole time.
That was another one where I almost recommended and. The ending,
that's a ride.
The end of that movie, if just like the last 10.
There's a monkey. There's bugs. There's Jennifer Carpenter. There's a mad scientist. There's a school. I think she's at like a nunnery or something.
Or an all-girls. It's just like an all, but like
it's a lot.
It's worth it. even if you like don't enjoy it, the last 10 minutes alone are
and that was the first, like, that was among one of the first movies we were watching when we were starting to get into 80s horror movies.
Yeah, it's
so,
random
so we didn't really know what they were about. Like, you
no,
know.
because I just like went through Shudder and I just started adding a bunch to my list. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So I was like, oh, watch. I was like, ooh, bug. This one's about bug. I knew you. I just like, Diana's not gonna like this, but like the bugs aren't even like.
Weren't even.
That's like a weird thing about it. Like her power.
It was like a side thing.
But like it seems like it should be like a focal point of the movie, but it was like, it's like, yeah, she can do this, and that should be what the movie's about. But this it was just.
Yeah, that's my honorable mention was Phenomena.
But yeah, so those are just some movies that we like. There's so many horror movies to watch, and those ones are just fun ones to watch.
Ones you may not have heard of, ones to try out.
Yeah, just for this last half of October while you're still in the mood.
Yes. And next time we will cover Halloween Ends as Halloween ends.
Yeah, well, because we were going to do that for this one, but then we had
ugh.
something to do. We had to go somewhere on Friday, so we didn't get to watch it in theaters like we wanted to. And
I
then
also just haven't been hearing good stuff about it, so I don't know if it's worth a movie watch, like going to the movies or like watching it at home on Peacock.
I don't expect it to be great, but that podcast is going to go up the day before Halloween, so it just kind of fits.
Awesome.
And we have to do it because we saw the other two in theaters, right? We didn't see the first one in theaters.
No.
But we saw the last one in theaters. But yeah,
we saw it with our niece and nephew.
Yeah,
who are babies.
They were like 9.
Yeah, 9.
But they
10.
loved it. So.
No, Denise said it was bad.
But they liked like
Denise came home and told her mom it was bad.
Well, no, they liked that we went to see a horror movie.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
It's not... I remember we had to like jump through hoops to find a theater that allowed them in. Once I turn 25, I'll be like of legal age to bring.
Yeah, because at that point we weren't old enough to bring children into a rated R movie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, we will be.
We will be next year.
Yeah, next year. All right. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and happy Halloween.
Happy almost Halloween.